What's this? A new channel name and a new profile picture? No way! Make sure to go check out Petchiesis. Wait, hold on. How do you say that?
Petchiesis.
Yeah, that. Then make sure to go check him out on Fiverr. Link is in the description.
Enough already!
Now on to the video! Good evening, trickster-style treaters. I certainly hope you're all having a wonderful time claiming the delicious bounties off of people for walking up to their front doorstep, or if you're watching this after Halloween, then I hope you had a good hunt. Now, grab your newly acquired sweets and treats, sit back and relax as I tell you the tale of devils and demons. But first, let me give you some background as to where this all began. Now I know some of you are going to ask why I'm talking about a Devil May Cry game, as you can tell from the title of this video. The reason why is because it was originally going to be a Resident Evil game, that being 4.
¿Qué carajo estás haciendo aquí? ¡Lárgate, cabrón!
It was going to be more action-focused and start a new character known as Tony Redgrave. He was a much more cool and cheesy protagonist when compared to the main characters before him. However, during development of the game, the lead designer, Hideki Kamiya, and the overseer realized that the game was straying a bit too far from what they had in mind to be a Resident Evil game. But instead of scrapping everything or reusing assets for future games, they instead went with a power move and turned it into its own game.
Let's rock, baby.
Now featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series, which explains why this particular DMC game feels more atmospheric and spooky when compared to its other entries, hence why I'm talking about it on Halloween, aside from the announcement for the special edition of the 5th game. I'm also covering this because I played the first DMC game on Halloween when I was handing out candy to nearby trick-or-treaters, and my dad was someone who was very big on DMC, so I figured to give it a shot. And holy shit was that one hell of an experience. 10 out of 10 would slay the king of the underworld while sleep deprived at 2 AM again. Jokes aside, this video is about Devil May Cry 1, and how you should not only go play the games, but also just explaining what it is to you, and why I just think it's a good game. Now then, let's move on to the actual part of the video. The story begins with the narrator telling us the story of the legendary Dark Knight, Sparta, a demon who woke up to justice in the middle of a war between the humans and demons. He defeated the demons and quietly reigned over the human world until his death. During that time, he sealed away the demon king Mundus, married a human woman, and had 2 sons, Dante and Virgil. Soon after they were born, their home was attacked by demons.
Come here. You need to hide, Dante. No matter what happens, you mustn't leave. I need to find Virgil. I promise I'll be back. I know this is hard. You must listen to me. Be a big boy. A man, huh? If I don't return, you must run. By yourself, alone. You must change your name. Forget your past and start a new life. As someone else. A new beginning. Virgil! Where are you, Virgil?
Dante was forced to live a new life and to change his name to Tony Redgrave, a subtle nod towards his old name during Resident Evil development. Fast forward years later, and Dante owns a devil hunting business known as Devil May Cry, showing him chilling at a desk minding his own business when suddenly...
Whoa, slow down, babe.
a mysterious lady busts down his door with a motorcycle. She proceeds to ask him if he's the son of Sparta. Dante answers honestly, but not before begging for his quotes to be taken out of context.
Nature calls? It's in the back. I only take special jobs, if you know what I mean.
Dante explains how this business makes a lot of people of her kind come around, saying that if he kills each one that comes...
Actually, I should hit the jackpot sooner or later.
In that case, you should be used to this sort of thing.
A fight between the two ensues and ends up with her throwing a motorcycle at Dante. But just before this lands,
Time to go to work, guys.
we soon find out that this woman actually bears a striking resemblance to Dante's mother, to a point where it's concerning. But regardless, she needs our help. The Demon King Mundus is resurrecting at a place called Malay Island. Yes, the T is silent, and she needs you to stop that from happening. You know, Trish, you could have just, asked. And so, the story of Devil May Cry begins. The gameplay in DMC is an interesting one. You have to keep in mind that this was essentially the first hack-and-slash game to be made ever, and during a time when the PS2 was still the hottest console. You gotta understand that the combat may be a bit dated compared to its future installments. With that being said, let's talk about its combat. Devil May Cry 1's combat is pretty damn simplistic, but that is by no stretch of the imagination a bad thing. This allows the player to string together very easy combos that are decently rewarding. For the most obvious ways to start combos, you have your basic 3-hit melee attack and ranged weapons, alongside a launcher attack known as High Time. The neat thing about High Time is that if you perform its input, locking onto an enemy while holding back and tapping the attack button, you will launch the enemy into the air. However, if you hold down the attack button while you perform the input, you will launch yourself up with the opponent. Small things like this will help you create different combos. It's what makes DMC such a good game. Another thing you may have noticed is that, unlike most games, there is no heavy or light attack, just one bog standard attack combo. Why is that, you may ask? Well, you see, a neat feature the DMC games always featured was that if you delayed certain parts of a combo, you could get a completely different attack string. For example, if you press the attack button 2 times and wait for a second, Dante will, instead of doing his basic combo, he'll do a multi-stabbing attack that can be extended if the player keeps mashing the button. This is perfect for fighting one-on-one combatants, and being able to extend and end an attack at any time makes it a very good move. However, this leaves you very open to a punish if you decide to dedicate yourself to mashing. Which brings me to my next point about combat: dodging. Now yes, DMC does have a role, which can be performed by locking onto an enemy and pressing the jump button while moving left or right. However, what if I told you that jumping also gives you iframes? Yeah, you heard me right. Near the start of your jump when Dante leaves the ground, you're given a few frames of invincibility. This may not sound like much, but keep in mind that this is a lifesaver, as you can use it to cancel attack animations unlike a dodge roll. Not to say jumping is straight up better, it gives less iframes compared to rolling and is very tricky to time right, but it's still a nice tool to have if you're feeling very risky and stylish. Speaking of jumping, another mechanic that is also a staple of the franchise at this point is jump canceling. TLDR, jumping on an enemy refreshes your moves, allowing you to do another attack or action like a double jump, or something like this. Jesus, looks like Mario's got some kind of competition. I won't get in depth with this kind of stuff, since that more dips into the other DMC games, but know that it's a very strong mechanic. Now for our second last combat mechanic, Devil Trigger. Not only the coolest name for a transformation, but also the name of an awesome dance and potential energy drink. This is the main mechanic that the game's always incorporated. Devil Trigger is a mechanic that requires you to have up to 3 bars. You can earn DT, Devil Trigger for short, by attacking enemies and getting hit. Once you press the DT button, you awaken your devil from within and unleash its demonic power on those who dare to stand in your way. While your inner demon is set free, your wounds slowly heal, you're much more agile, resilient, and hit harder. You also have access to new powers. On top of this, depending on which devil arm you have equipped, your devil state changes. However, this power comes at a cost. Your DT can only last for as long as its meter, so if you have only 3 bars, it won't last long. One neat feature that I always liked as well was that with DT, Even if you upgraded it to max, you could always use it with 3 bars. It's not one of those cases where you need to have maximum DT to be able to transform. If you hit 3, then you can transform, and you can't gain any until you leave it. Going back to Devil Arms, which I briefly mentioned, there are weapons that you obtain throughout the games that have unique movesets. You get 3 Devil Arms throughout the game. Alistair, your first weapon, a sword that is infused with lightning and allows you to fly in DT. Ifrit, a pair of fire-infused punching gauntlets that deal massive damage and can be charged by holding down the attack button. And last, but certainly not least, Force Edge, your starting weapon that also has no DT or special skills, and is immediately obsolete once you acquire Alistair. For now, anyway. You also have your ranged weapons such as Ebony and Ivory, your starting twin pistols which are great for combo extenders, Coyote B, a powerful shotgun that is perfect for jump canceling, a grenade launcher that breaks your enemy's armor and does massive damage, the Nightmare B, an experimental laser gun that resembles one of the bosses in the game and uses your DT meter and has bouncing lasers, and the Needle Gun, literally just used for a gimmick underwater level. Okay, now on to the last, and certainly not least, best mechanic of the DMC games. Taunting.
Are you okay?
Yeah, you heard me. Taunting. It's a great mechanic because of how it can allow you to build up style and just basically have your enemy get super pissed off, and come on, who doesn't want to flex? Okay, but jokes aside, this has a lot more going for it than it does on the surface. When you taunt at an enemy, you get an increase in style, aka more style means more orbs, meaning more upgrades, meaning you can kill stuff a lot easier. You also gain DT on a successful taunt. Taunting is actually a very useful mechanic to help you out in every situation. Alright, I think I pretty much covered every basic combat mechanic in DMC 1, so let's just move on to the other stuff that I couldn't really figure out how to fit into the video properly, because I lack any creative depth. So yeah, we get it. Devil May Cry is a really old game that has some really solid mechanics and other stuff that's aged poorly, and we should play it because nostalgia and I have a love boner for the series. Well, yes and no. It's also because of its music, bosses, atmosphere, and Dante himself. So let's just start with the bosses. They're all vastly unique, especially with the first one who, each one has a different way to be taken down and have unique designs which make sense to them. Your first boss, Phantom, the lava spider, Griffin, an electric red zappy bird, Nightmare, a weird mechanical goop machine, Nello Angelo, a Chad demon knight who you fight 3 times in the game and parries your attacks, and of course, Mundus, the final boss. Speaking of which, spoiler warning, we are getting into spoiler territory about an old-ass game. Please skip to this timestamp to avoid it. Okay, are they gone? I mean, I hope not, because I need views. Turns out that Nello Angelo is your long-lost brother Virgil, and has been corrupted by Mundus after he lost in his fight with Dante all those years when they were teens. And he now wants to fight you for a 3rd time. Dante wins, of course, and you get his amulet, since Dante and Virgil both received amulets from their mother before she bit the dust.
Virgil, Dante, happy birthday.
Hey, remember that little wimpy piece of shit Force Edge? Well, turns out those amulets fuse together with the sword to return it to its former glory and turn it back to Sparta's blade. Force Edge Fuckboy Supreme Edition. With you now wielding the power of your father, you immediately descend into hell to stop Mundus once and for all with this awesome new devil power and... wait, it has no devil trigger.
Know your fucking place, trash!
Okay, but as cool as this thing is, it has no DT or any of the moves Alistair has until after you beat the game with it. Meaning no stinger, no air hike, no nothing until you beat the game. And even then, you only get to use the DT in the final boss fight, which turns into Starfucks for the first phase of the fight, until the second phase when it's turned to normal, and it's actually really fun. Regardless, it's still a really cool fight that is challenging in its own right, and really shows off the power of Sparta and how cool boss fights could be during the PS2 era. It's a huge shame we don't get to see the sword return to its former glory after this game, as it's only used as a side note in DMC 5, but hey, it's the small things that matter. After this, Dante manages to defeat Mundus, but not before starting off with the series' tradition of...
It looks like we have a winner.
Jackpot.
And with this, Dante escapes Malay Island with Trish, and thus ends Devil May Cry. Now for them to just skip making a second one and straight into making the third one, which is just a prequel. For some reason. Okay, so the bosses hold up well, but what about the music and atmosphere? Well, remember when I said this game was originally a half-breed of Resident Evil 4? Well, turns out that still holds true, as many of the game's mechanics, locations, menus, and enemies give off that Resident Evil vibe. That's why it's the only one in the series to have a horror atmosphere despite how much demon ass you're kicking. Okay, now on to the big boy, music. Now, if you know me, you know I love me a good soundtrack, as it's what makes or breaks a game for me. But like I said, Devil May Cry 1 is really old, so how in the hell can this be any good? This shit blows my goddamn mind. How is this so good? It's like 19 years old. What the actual fuck?
I've been doing this for 19 years.
Honestly, when looking at Devil May Cry 1 nowadays, it's insane to see how far it's come and how vastly it's changed throughout its multiple sequels. But I mean, games have changed now. It's not like any of them are as good as Devil May Cry 1. Like, I mean, come on. It's such an old game that it's impossible for them to be able to capture that.
It's been nearly a year since we last met. Where does the time go?
Words cannot express how happy I am to be wrong today.